Good day. Back in the 80s, I used to listen to a physician by the name of Dr. Dean Adele. And he, on the radio, he had a radio call-in show where you could, if you, whatever problem you had, you could help him. He would help you with, questions, outside of your medical context. He was like an objective observer. If you did a good job telling him what the story was, he was going to be able to give you some good advice. Dr. Adele had a big impact on my life. He changed my views on a lot of political issues like the war on drugs and other things, the death penalty. Didn't change my opinion about abortion. But anyway, he changed my views on things. And it was just with sound reasoning. But everything he said back in the 80s has come true about a lot of things. So which is really, really crazy, that he's had these, he's just been spot on. Like about phones, like he's talking about how everybody was going to have these phones and the rates were going to be roughly the same, and that you would not have a landline in your home. He called this stuff back in the 80s. It was really, really impressive. And he also said that there's a cure for cancer, but the pharmaceutical industry shut it down. So anyway, it's very important to understand that you as a diabetic, type 2 diabetic, the drug industry, the pharmaceutical industry has a vested interest in keeping you sick. And and this is why you don't really see a lot of stuff in terms of a focus on behavior that will fix your problem and basically make it so that you don't need the drug companies anymore. And because they want you to be dependent on them. I mean, they're just freaking crack dealers with suits and ties. And the crack they're selling is you get to live a little bit longer. And so anyway, so people will pay for that. I know I do. And anyway, so Dr. Adele was interviewed about a decade ago, and I was listening to this interview. He's been off air for a long, long time. But he would still be worth listening to, even though his stuff is kind of dated. He'd still be worth listening to. But I haven't really found a way to do that yet. But in this interview, the person interviewing asked him at the very end of the interview, he said, if there was one thing that you could tell Americans to do to improve their health, what would it be? And he said, eat less. And he's right. So I got on the scale this morning. I weighed 300 pounds. Before I went to bed, I weighed 304. So overnight, I lost four pounds, sloughed off 4 pounds. And, for me and for you, a part of you getting better from type 2 diabetes. There are some rare exceptions to this, but a part of you taking control of your type 2 diabetes and winning the battle against type 2 diabetes is eating less. And it's not just eating less for type 2 diabetics, it's what we eat. So no grains and no potatoes. Which sucks because I love bagels and pasta and all the stuff all these grain-based foods, I just love it. And then potatoes, I love French fries and mashed potatoes and potato salad. Potato IVs. So anyway, right into my arm. Just give me those potatoes. But the thing is that what's at stake is that if we don't do this, they're going to start chopping shit off, chopping pieces of us off, and then we're really screwed. And we're quickly on. We are fast on. We're going down the path. Going down a path very quickly that leads us to a space where it makes it much more difficult for us to get a hold of our health. So I was watching this thing on Kentucky's healthcare, of all places, Kentucky, where they've really taken an aggressive approach in terms of public health to dealing with type 2 diabetes. And one of the biggest problems is that about 25% of people who have type 2 diabetes don't know they have it. There's really no symptoms for a long time. And then I was lucky that I got the thrush when I got it in my late 30s. But once they told me I had type 2 diabetes, nobody really explained what it was and how serious it is. Like, you better take this seriously or you're going to have a horrible life. So once they start chopping stuff off, and it's really, it makes it harder to work out and exercise and do all the things you want to do. Because like one of the most important exercises that any of us can do is, well, the vast majority of us can do is walking. And if they're chopping, parts of your foot off and stuff like that, that gets very difficult to do. And that's what happened to my friend Joe. They just kept chopping pieces of him off, and I saw him trying to walk in the backyard of my house with his cane, hobbling around back there, and it was just exhausting to him. And he just like shriveled. He was very emaciated toward the last part of his life, and his hands were like really emaciated and stuff like that. So anyway, so the thing is that, and he ate crap all the time. I'd see him walking in with McDonald's, and what are you gonna do? And then when he got to the end, it was pretty ugly. But that was because he didn't take care of himself. So so one of the things we have to do if we have type 2 diabetes is we have to eat less, and we have to cut certain foods pretty much entirely out of our diet. And one of those foods is those foods are grain based and potatoes. Those two things have got to go. I'm not a believer that you should completely cut anything. I think that every once in a while you can allow yourself to have some pasta or mashed potatoes or whatever, a bagel, cream cheese, and all the good stuff on it. But I don't think it's sustainable to cut it forever. Anyway, so you want to get out of this. We all should want to get out of this thing where we're dependent on physicians and medications to survive. And the way to do that is to change our diets and eat less. Anyway, so I saw this Kentucky guy, who kind of one of the people that really got this Kentucky public health effort going against type 2 diabetes. He said that he had type 2 diabetes. He was on insulin, and he was on metformin, and he was on blood pressure meds and all this stuff. And the doctor told him what was going to happen, and he said, "To hell with that!" And he lost like 100 pounds. And so one thing I want to say is that if you have diabetes, it's harder to lose weight. So don't be discouraged. I'm trying not to be, and that's why I'm doing this, so that we can kind of like do this together. That's it. Thanks.